Coming up in this video, I take you to LaGuardia Airport with a detailed focus on the approach, but what about that New York City view? This video is a bit different, and it all starts right now. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing by hitting on that subscribe button below. I've got a lot of great content. So I just took a look at the Delta app, and I noticed that my seat is not the seat that I selected. I'm currently in seat 3A according to the Delta app. I did not select seat 3A. Then I took a look at the seat map and I noticed that this aircraft type is not the same aircraft type. My flight was just changed from an A320 to an A319. I'm sitting in the first class cabin and every single seat is full, so I have to take what's available to me. So today, it's an A319 from Minneapolis to LaGuardia. Let's go. So I usually start these videos talking about how I strategically choose a seat on the left or right hand side of the airplane for the best views into New York. Now, I'll say that I actually did have a seat on the left hand side of the aircraft, but today is an interesting day. You see, the wind is coming from 220 degrees. This means that I'm anticipating landing on runway 22, but in the few hours that it's going to take for me to get to LaGuardia, the wind is going to be a little variable. It could shift a few degrees to the right or to the left of that. Therefore, I don't know exactly if we'll be landing on runway 22 with a right turn or a left turn, so we'll just have to wait and see. And that right or left turn to runway 22 really depends upon the departure runway. Of course, all aircraft do need to take off and land into the wind, and at LaGuardia Airport, with the crisscrossing runways, well, that presents an issue because aircraft do need to pass over the same exact spot, the intersection, but one runway needs to be used for arrivals and one runway needs to be used for departures. So I'm pretty sure we'll use runway 22 for arrivals, just not 100% sure what the departure runway is. If runway 31 is in use, that means that we're making a left-hand turn onto the final approach course, but if runway 13 is in use, that means we're making a right-hand turn onto the final approach course. So I just checked, and the weather right now is slightly off of 220 degrees, favoring runway 13 for the departure runway, so that means that aircraft are making a right-hand turn. We'll see if that changes by the time I get to New York. And that's the A319 that I'll be taking up to LaGuardia behind me. So what happened here? Well, originally, like I said, I was scheduled to be on an Airbus A320. That aircraft was coming from Detroit, DTW. For some reason, I don't know why, that flight got severely delayed. That would have delayed the departure time for this flight. So there just happened to be another flight coming in. This is an A319 inbound from Calgary that they're using on this route today to replace the A320. There's going to be a little bit of seat arrangement discrepancies, I'm sure, among some passengers, but I'm happy because I got a window seat. And a window seat is what this channel is all about. Only 44 seats are window seats on this airplane. 6 window seats in first class, 6 window seats in Comfort Plus, and 32 window seats in the main cabin. Of these 44 seats total, 22 passengers will get a view of Manhattan and 22 will not. It all depends on if we bypass the airport to its east or west and make a left or right turn to line up with the runway. All right, it's now time for boarding. Left turn, right turn on final? Who knows? We'll see. All right, I'm on board the A319. First step as usual. And as usual, I am the only guy in my cabin with the window shade open. We are ready to leave the gate, which is located at the long C concourse here at MSP. Today is a cold day in Minneapolis, and for safety before departure, we're going to get de-iced. Today, our departure runway will be runway 30 right. However, the de-ice pad is located near the other side of the runway, so we'll first have to taxi in the opposite direction that we'll need to taxi in to get to the runway. Once done with de-icing, we'll taxi back. The pad is located on the other side of runway 422, so we'll have to cross this runway twice, but it's rarely used at MSP as an active runway, so it doesn't present much conflict at all. I was going to film the runway crossing, but as that was happening, I saw the famous Delta Thank You A321 climbing off of runway 30 left on its way to Tampa, so my attention was focused there. As ground control provided us with taxi instructions to the de-ice pad, a special operations team coordinates the de-icing operation so that we're de-iced in a timely fashion. This airport has plenty of space for special areas for de-icing. This is a winter operations airport in the upper Midwest, so the de-ice pads can be used quite often here. With the price of my airline ticket today, I've got a front row seat for the de-icing performance. Let's watch the action from the best seat in the house. On the plane. This whole process only lasted a few minutes, and once we were done, ground control gave us instructions to taxi to runway 30 right after crossing runway 422, and this time I was able to film the runway crossing. And just a few minutes later, we received clearance to taxi onto and take off on runway 30 right. Let's head on over to LaGuardia. The climb out for this runway with the destination of New York calls for a right turn in the opposite direction of takeoff shortly after departure, so I know that the best view of downtown Minneapolis is going to be on the left side of the aircraft. I'll need to relish the Minneapolis downtown city view now because my normally successful strategy of seat selection for the best view in New York is at peril today. The wind at LaGuardia is coming from 210 degrees, which provides a headwind for aircraft arriving on runway 22, and for departing flights, runway 13 is the departure runway because even though the 210 degree wind is a crosswind, it's still angled 10 degrees less than a right angle at 80 degrees, and it still provides a small headwind component for departures. If the wind shifts just around 10 to 20 degrees to the southwest, then runway 31 would likely become the departure runway. If runway 13 is the departure runway, we'll pass by LaGuardia Airport to the west, likely, but not positively, providing a good view of Manhattan on the right side of the aircraft, And if runway 31 is the departure runway, we'll pass by the airport to the east, providing a view of Manhattan on the left side of the aircraft. The wind is just too variable today for me to definitely know which side of the airport we'll pass by, but I know that we will land on runway 22. We're headed to the east coast of the USA and continue onwards to the southeast of Minneapolis so that we can approach the city of New York from its south. During most of the en route phase of flight, clouds covered much of the route today, but that is no excuse to keep the window shade down like most of the passengers on this plane.
Why is my window the only one that's open?
A cloudy day does not mean bad views, because if you keep a watchful eye, you can see amazing things like this Delta 767 on its way from LAX to JFK over Pennsylvania. This aircraft's flight path will eventually be higher than ours, as we'll start our descent to LaGuardia well before this aircraft starts its descent to JFK. Even though the two airports are only a few miles apart, JFK arrivals will always descend over flights landing at LaGuardia. We're about to enter some pretty complex airspace up ahead. It's now time to descend, as the center controller provides lower altitudes to descend to before we're handed off to New York approach control. We're passing by Hazeltown, Pennsylvania, descending to 10,000 feet, and in a few minutes we'll contact the approach controller.
Full approach at the 1020 with you, leveling 10,000, information Gulf.
Delta 1020, New York, good evening. Altimeter 3030.
3030 for Delta 1020.
We checked in at 10,000 feet with the approach controller. Today, there will actually be two approach controllers that will handle our flight. There's the controller who we're talking to now, and because there are many arrivals coming in, we'll talk to a second controller once we're at 4,000 feet. As we descend, the wind is still favoring runway 22, and with the wind coming from 210 degrees, runway 13 is the departure runway. Since runway 13 is the departure runway, departures off of this runway will occupy the airspace to the east of LaGuardia. So we'll have to pass by LaGuardia to its west, then swing around in a right turn to land on runway 22. The questions that remain are, will we be asked to follow the Hudson River northbound? And will the controller provide us with a heading that puts us over Manhattan so that we can see some of Manhattan? If we fly up the Hudson, I'll only see New Jersey on the left side, but if we're given a heading to fly, there's a slight chance that it might allow for some views of the skyscrapers if we're positioned over Manhattan. Well, today, as we near New York City from the south, we're indeed given a heading to fly, 40 degrees, and from our position south of the city, the 40-degree heading actually puts us right over the Hudson, which means that I will not be getting that Manhattan view today. I had some trouble capturing all of the ATC audio from the first controller, but I'm going to let you listen into our conversation with the second controller starting at 4,000 feet over the Hudson River. And to change things up a bit, for the first time, I'm including the transmissions to all of the other aircraft to help paint a picture of what is going on around us. Coming up, you're going to hear our pilot contact the controller, and the next transmissions are to aircraft that are ahead of us that are descending and turning to get ready to land on runway 22. We'll be doing what they're told to do soon.
Full approach over 1020 with you, 4,000, heading 040.
Copy, fine, thank you. Copy, 1640, reduce to the 180, then descend to maintain 2,000.
Speed 180, then 2,000, 1640.
1664, sorry, 187, good day. Brickyard 5720, heading 050, descend to 3,000.
050, 3000, Brickyard 5720.
Burger 16, I'm sorry, Southwest 1640, turn right 130.
Right turn 130, South 1640.
We checked in with the final approach controller on a 40-degree heading at 4,000 feet, and we're given no further instructions, so we'll just keep on doing what we're doing here. Ahead, aircraft are being vectored for spacing. Let's listen into more instructions to planes ahead of us that are being told to turn and slow down, as well as another flight checking in behind us. We'll also hear the controller give us a slight heading change for spacing.
Southwest 1640, turn right 170, and advise the field in sight.
Heading 170, South 1640, the field's in sight.
Southwest 1640, clear bridge, approach 22, contact tower 187, good day.
So visual 22, 1 tower, South 1640.
Brickyard 5720, reduce to the 180.
180, Brickyard 5720.
Southwest 1383, 4,000, heading 030. Southwest 1020, heading 050, descend to 3,000.
Heading 050, descend 3000, Delta 1020.
I'm checking on.
Southwest 1383, 4030 heading.
Southwest 1383, thank you.
We were told to turn 10 degrees to the right to a heading of 50 degrees and to descend to 3,000 feet. This brings us closer and lower to the point where we'll need to turn later on, but for now we're basically flying up the west side of Manhattan, so everyone on the right side of the aircraft can see the Manhattan skyscrapers. Below us we can see the Hudson River and the various cities that flank the river in New Jersey.
Delta 1020, reduce to the 180.
For the 180, Delta 1020.
Breakout 5720, turn right 130, descend to 2000.
130 to 2000, breakout 5720.
As we're told to slow down and listen to another aircraft told to turn towards the airport ahead, we can finally see part of Manhattan, the area north of the George Washington Bridge. It's only a small slice of the 13.5-mile long island, and we're now crossing the Harlem River at Spuyten Duyvil to enter into the borough of the Bronx. So today we were never asked to follow the Hudson River and are actually east of it now. The heading we were given provides the best spacing to get us in efficiently and safely behind the aircraft ahead of us. The next transmissions are for planes ahead of and behind us. Let's listen in.
Average breakout 5593 at 4000, follow through.
Breakout 5593, roger. Southwest 1383, heading 050, descend to 3000.
050 heading 3000, Southwest 1383.
Breakout 5720, traffic Southwest 732, clock 4 miles 2000.
Inside breakout 5720.
Breakout 5720, follow Southwest, traffic report 22, contact tower 187, good day.
Go visual 22 behind Southwest over tower 5720, good day.
Up ahead we heard a Brickyard flight being asked to follow a Southwest 737 in its 2 o'clock position. We're actually behind that Brickyard flight, which is operating as an Embraer jet today. And in a moment, we're going to be told to turn to a 130-degree heading, which is southeast over Westchester County. Then the controller will point out that traffic to us and ask us to follow it to the runway.
Delta 1020, turn right, heading 130, descend to maintain 2000.
Wait, 130, descend to 2000, Delta 1020.
Breakout 5593, flighting at 050, descend to maintain 3000.
Heading 050, descend 3000, breakout 5593.
Southwest 1383, reduce speed to 180.
180 knots, Southwest 1383.
Delta 1020, your traffic 1 o'clock free, going to final at 2 is an Embraer jet.
Alright, Captain, safe for Delta 1020.
Delta 1020, follow the Embraer jet, clear visual report 2822, contact LaGuardia tower 18.7, good day.
18.7, clear to report to 22 behind the Embraer for Delta 1020, good day.
We're moving along quickly on what's called a right base leg, and we're all clear for the approach, so we're going to contact the control tower at the airport as instructed.
Hello, Tower 1020 with the visual, runway 22.
Delta 1020, LaGuardia Tower, runway 22, clear to land, traffic close, runway 13.
Clear to land, runway 22, Delta 1020, thanks.
We are cleared to land on runway 22 and are told that traffic will depart on runway 13. We can continue the right turn towards the runway following the Embraer. We won't be given any further instructions until we land, but we'll continue to listen to the tower controller talk to other pilots on this frequency.
Breakout 4793, contacting you at the departure.
Good day, breakout 4793.
Left 5414, traffic 1.5 mile final for runway 22, 121011, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Breakout 13, 5414.
Breakout 4608, LaGuardia Tower, runway 13, line up and wait, traffic lands runway 22.
Line up and wait, 13, breakout 4608.
Did you get all that? Since runway 13 intersects with runway 22, once a plane lands on runway 22 and passes the intersection, the controller provides clearance for the runway 13 departure. A few planes will take off before we land, and we fit perfectly into this line of arrivals. But it doesn't stop with us. The approach controller has cleared the aircraft behind us for the approach and has been asked to follow us. This aircraft is a Southwest 737, and it's now going to check in with the tower just like we did a short time ago.
LaGuardia Southwest 1383, with you behind the Airbus for 22.
Southwest 1382, LaGuardia Tower, runway 22, clear to land, traffic close, runway 13.
They're land 22, Southwest 1383.
And over 5414, contacting you at the departure today.
Departure 14.
The next series of transmission occur as an aircraft lands and crosses the intersection.
Breakout 4608, traffic on a 3 mile final for runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Let's take off 13, breakout 4608.
Mega 591, LaGuardia Tower, runway 13, line up and wait, traffic lands runway 22.
Line up way 13, American 591.
Southwest 1340, left turn on taxiway Charlie, left turn Bravo, contact ground 27.
Charlie Bravo, call ground, Southwest 640.
There we heard a plane being cleared for takeoff, another plane being told to line up and wait on runway 13 behind that departure, and finally, the aircraft that landed was told to turn left onto taxiway Charlie to clear the runway so that the next airplane behind it can land. Transmissions like these generally occur when aircraft touch down and clear the intersecting runway. This is repeated all day long. We're continuing along in sequence over the Bronx. What do you think of the views here? I didn't get to see the skyscrapers of Manhattan, but I enjoy coming down the eastern shore of the Bronx as we roughly follow Interstate 95 below us. The sun is in a good position and behind us, so we don't have the sun glare on the window like we did before we turned around to the runway.
Victor 4608, contact me at departure.
Go to departure, Victor 4608.
The latest departure has been told to contact departure control, and another aircraft, 2 planes behind us, is about to check in with the tower for landing clearance.
Tower, Victor 5593, modified right base on the visual 22.
Victor 5592, LaGuardia Tower, runway 22, clear to land, traffic approach runway 13.
Runway 22, clear to land, Victor 5592.
And now someone requests the wind check.
Wind 21011.
Like I explained before, 210 degrees favors runway 22 for arrivals and runway 13 for departures. In the next series of transmissions, an aircraft is going to be given takeoff clearance before we land, and you can hear the controller tell both of the aircraft behind us to slow down. The controller needs to ensure sufficient separation behind aircraft to squeeze in departures, and all arrivals should be able to clear the runway before the next airplane touches down.
American 591, traffic on 2.5 miles per runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 13, American 591.
Victor 4798, LaGuardia Tower, runway 13, line up and wait, traffic lines runway 6.
Line up and wait 13, Victor 4798.
Southwest 1383, final approach speed.
Final approach speed of 1383.
Victor 5593, you are overtaking traffic, taking 0 knots.
Alright, we're slowing down to 160, Victor 5590.
Victor 5720, left and Bravo, contact ground 7.
Look, man, nice to have Victor 5720.
Well, the runway is now clear for us as the Embraer we were following ahead landed and has been told to turn left and contact ground control. And that American Airlines aircraft that we just heard being issued takeoff clearance a few moments ago is now past the intersection of runway 22. The only conflicts are for the aircraft that are behind us as they were all close, but the controller made sure that they slowed down. We are over the East River and just moments from touchdown on the 7,001-foot-long runway 22. It's the good work of the controller that prevents the aircraft behind us from having to abandon their approach and go around, and it also allows the controller to issue takeoff clearance to the flight that was asked to line up on runway 13 as soon as we land on runway 22 and cross the intersection of the 2 runways. The next 2 transmissions don't pertain to us, but the aircraft waiting to take off is waiting for us to land, and you'll hear that takeoff clearance here.
American 591, contact me at departure.
591, good day. Victor 4747, visual 22.
Victor 4747, LaGuardia Tower, runway 22, clear to land, traffic approach runway 13.
22, clear to land, Victor 4747.
Victor 4798, runway 13, clear for takeoff, traffic 1.5 miles final for runway 22.
Clear for takeoff, Victor 4798.
November 47, Echo Golf, LaGuardia Tower, runway 13, line up and wait, traffic lines runway 22.
The departing aircraft is on a departure roll. The next aircraft has been asked to line up and wait, and we slow down on the runway as the controller asks us to vacate the runway.
Delta 1020, left turn Delta, left turn Bravo, contact ground 0.7, I appreciate the help.
Delta Bravo 1.7 to 1020, good day.
The controller appreciated our help so that the next airplane, that Southwest 737, can land. I turned my head back so I can catch a glimpse of the airplane that was just given takeoff clearance on runway 13, and as I continued to look to the left, I could see the Southwest 737, which is pretty close to touching down. Okay, that was a lot of information, so for now, I'm just going to show you some clips of our taxi into the gate. I hope you recognized how much work it takes to get an aircraft to land at a major airport like this. Many passengers may think that pilots might deliberately seek out views for passengers, but in a busy airspace like this, you just have to follow along with what's being told to you so that you can get in and land. The airlines certainly appreciate that as air traffic control helps with their on-time performance metrics. another great approach to LaGuardia. I hope you enjoyed my explanations today. I love these approaches. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I am back on the ground here in New York City. Okay, so the people that were sitting on the right-hand side of the airplane definitely had a better view of Manhattan, but I'm very happy that I was able to share the view from the left side with you. And that concludes another trip to LaGuardia Airport. Well, the old D terminal is still here. Of course, there are the new G gates that have been constructed, which are brand new. Eventually, this is going to come down, and there's a new concourse that's being built on that side over there. Lots of exciting changes here at LaGuardia. And down the escalator, I go to baggage claim. Well, thanks again for watching my video. You know how excited I get about these approaches to LaGuardia, and I really hope you love them too, and I'm really happy that you're able to see them because they are really, really thrilling. And if you're a subscriber, I really appreciate it. If you're not, please consider subscribing by hitting that subscribe button below, hit the like button, and I'll see you very, very soon in a new video.